Hello and welcome to Scale Car Garage. Well, working on a few projects here in the garage. Ones I'd like to share with you. They're of course slot car related, and I think they're kind of neat. And I'm going to be quiet and just show you what's going on here at Scale Car Garage. Well, I thought I'd give you an update on the projects I was working on for the Worldwide Slot Car Chat. And if you haven't seen the Worldwide Slot Car Chat, I invite you to please check out Greg Golb's channel. I'll leave a link in the description below. As much fun as it is to watch and listen to, it's actually more fun to participate. And I would really encourage you, if you're interested in any type of slot car racing, driving, building, to please join us. It's really a lot of fun. There were two projects. One was the Porsche 935 with round rear fenders, and this car was actually, I guess, the first iteration of the 935 with the slant nose, and was driven by Jackie Eakes and I believe Jochen Maas, and is Greg Gob, who runs the Worldwide Slot Car Chat, his favorite Porsche. But there is not a 1/32 scale car like it at all. They all have the square rear fenders, which was the later development of the car. So as a group, we took it upon ourselves to, well, let's see if we can build one for Greg. And that's what this has been. And I know it's taken a little longer. Things always take longer than you think. But anyway, got it done and made the molds. Now, I may have to make more than one mold, actually, because, well, let me just show you here. There were some issues with the rear fenders, and as much as you try to be careful when you make the initial model, inevitably as you develop, you notice that, well, things could always be improved upon. So I actually ended up making two sets of molds, one set with the imperfections, and now one with, well, it's not perfect, but let's say lesser imperfections. That's a good way to put it. And here are the molds here. Let me just show them to you. Here is the, all right. And I know that I hope I'm not boring you too much with mold making, but I don't know, I just so enjoy doing this. It's really fun. Anyway, I digress. So you can see this is the interior plug that was made from this car. And this is the exterior, the outside of the car. And when you put the two pieces of silicone together, you have the entire mold. And there's actually a void between the top and bottom, although I guess really this is the top and bottom, but you cast it upside down. And I've actually gone and tried this mold. I'm just going to take it apart for now. Well, you can see it comes apart nicely. It goes together nicely. It's a happy mold. Sometimes when you make molds, they're not happy, and they have their own little idiosyncrasies. That's a nice way of putting it. This has turned out to be a happy mold, and here is the output of this happy mold. And as you can see, this turned out, well, pretty darn good. The back looks lovely. It's consistent, and this is exactly how it comes out of the mold. So it needs a little bit of cleanup because some of the edges are not perfect. So you need to trim it a wee bit from the flash. And so I did two outputs, and it looks like we are ready to make three 935s. I'm getting excited here because it's really kind of neat. Sorry, 935s ready to go, and I'm so pleased with this. Oh, it just came out of the mold so nicely. I don't know if you can see the how nice and shiny and smooth that surface is. Oh, well, I guess simple things for simple minds, folks. I'm sorry. But along with the actual body itself, we have the racing seat. The mold is done, and here's actually output from that mold. As you can see, got a racing seat. Oops. Really wants to race too, doesn't it? Racing seat. The windshield wiper. I know it's a lot of resin for one little part, but you know, once you get into molding or casting and molding, smaller parts are more of a challenge than larger parts, believe it or not. And that's why you want to leave a lot of resin as far as our reservoir is concerned, so you leave the runners on, and it really makes a difference to cast a really nice small part. So there's the windshield wiper, there's the steering wheel. I've already had the driver done. Here's the dashboard that goes in the car, and of course the interior that the dashboard goes on. So we're all set there. It's all the parts are there. Oh, and of course, don't forget what's really important for the exterior, the top of the rear wing element. Oops, that goes the other way like this, I beg your pardon. So there we go, we've got the rear wing element ready to go. So this kit, oh, and of course, you know, there's a driver that I had that I've already got a mold for, and a driver's head and arms. So this kit is ready to go. Isn't that great? The other project that I was working on for the Worldwide Stock Car Chat was a Chaparral 2G. And the state at which it is in, I poured the first pour of the mold, and this was actually a model that someone had made and done a slush cast of, and there were some really thin areas. And unfortunately, when I did the first pour, as you can see, and then pulled the original out, it cracked. Luckily it didn't break, but it cracked. I found where the crack was and filled it in with CA glue, making sure that it you know, didn't break, thank goodness. But I also noticed that there were other thin areas, and what I did, hopefully you can see that, is I sort of built them up using clean clay. I was going to use CA, but CA shrinks too much. So I thought, okay, I'll build it up using clean clay, and I think that will work really well. So this project is ready for its second pour. It's just as we did with the 935. It needs an interior pour so that you have this two-part mold producing a one-piece body. So the 2G is certainly coming along, and I'm really pleased with it so far. And I know I have to get mixing, rubber, and pouring. Now, while these two projects sort of bouncing between the two, I took on another project that was, well, quite frankly, for myself. It was one of my favorite cars. It's, and being on a Porsche kick, a Porsche RSK. And Strombecker made a lovely Porsche RSK. Oh my gosh, it's 1/32 scale. It's the right size. It's beautifully sculpted, except for one minor detail. The rear wheel wells are, well, quite frankly, not correct. So I took it upon myself to correct the rear wheel wells, and this is the result. And what I did was I took one of my 356 models and honestly sacrificed the rear fenders because it actually has the correct shape. And well, grafted them on, for lack of a better description, to this Porsche RSK body made by Strombecker. The other thing that I did was I added headlight buckets. So what I plan to have available is, for anyone who wants to light this kit, you can actually put lights in, or not. I have lens covers already created, and the mold has been made for that. They actually fit quite well. There's still quite a bit of work to be done on this, believe it or not, specifically with the rear vents. And no matter how many photos I looked at, the rear vents seemed to be different on each car. Some were smaller, some were larger, some were lower, some were higher, and I can understand why, because I imagine as the car developed, the venting changed, which makes sense. So I did my best to, I guess, average out where the vents should be. And the next challenge was, what do you make the vents from? And honestly, I toyed with a lot of different things, but I was inspired by Frank Peter van de Goor, and again, another wonderful YouTube channel you should check out, and I'll leave the link in the description below. Frank Peter makes incredible models, not only of slot cars, but of scenery, and he made a piece of scenery for us for our track that is a work of art. And I implore you to please watch, comment, and subscribe on his videos, because he is an artist, a true artist. So I took a page from his book, if you will, and what Frank Peter is a master at is taking everyday items and creating works of art. For example, the flower pot that he made in the window of our building that he made for us was an upside down top of a pen. He uses ordinary items and builds them into, well, as far as I'm concerned, art. So I took a page from his book, as I say, and I thought, well, the lines of the vents are so delicate. Well, what do I have that's really delicate? Well, copper wire. Yeah, copper wire, and it's about the correct width. It seems to work. Now, admittedly, I still have to finish these off, but it needs certainly some work and some trimming and some finishing. But Frank Peter, thank you for your inspiration. I think it will turn out quite nicely. And to be honest, I'm not too worried about being too perfect, because if you look at a restored RSK, they are incredibly well restored. In fact, they're restored much better than they ever came out of the Porsche factory. Now, if you look at pictures from back in the day when they were racing, they weren't so perfect, even before they were raced. So I'm going to do my best, but I suspect that once these are close to being finished, they will have some character to them, which is a nice way of saying they won't be perfect. But not going for perfection, really. I wish I could. I'll do my best, but I'm sure there will be some imperfections. So those are the projects that I've been working on, and well, I hope you like them. Gosh, Porsches and Chaparrals. Can you imagine a better stable of race cars to have? Anyway, before I get too boring, thank you all so much for bearing with me with this update. Of course, there will be more, and I'm so pleased with all of the comments and all of the views and all of your support. So thanks again for joining me here at Scale Car Garage. I hope you enjoyed watching. If you did, please leave a comment, like, and subscribe.